known as the Leidenfrost effect. And the Leidenfrost effect, you've seen it before, you just didn't know what it was called. When you put some water and you put it on a hot pan on the stove, if the pan is not very hot, like it's just barely been on for a few seconds, then the water boils off immediately and it goes away, right? But if the pan is really hot, what will happen is the little bubbles will dance on the pan, right? And what happens is there's a layer of gas that gets trapped underneath the bubble. And the bubble just starts floating around in the gas. So what's happening is the gas is insulating the water from the pan. And so since gas is such a poor conductor of heat, the bubble takes longer actually, or that drop of water takes longer to evaporate than it would if the pan wasn't as hot. Okay? So something's really, really hot, we can trap a layer of gas between the liquid and the solid, between the liquid and the pan. All right? So the same thing can happen. I'm trying to save you down.
When you set off
the same thing can happen because it can happen because on your tongue or in your mouth or on your hand, if you got your hand all wet. Anybody ever done this before? If you want to grab a pan or you want to grab something hot, if you wet your fingers and then you grab it, then you can grab something hot because that water that's on your hand has to evaporate. It has a really high latent heat. So it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy to make that evaporate. And so you have a few seconds, right, before your hand is going to burn. Where if you grab it when your hand is dry, you'll burn yourself right away, right? Well, the same thing can happen in the opposite direction. Something has to freeze before it will cause whatever underneath it to freeze. And the thing that has to freeze is the saliva in my mouth. So the saliva in my mouth has got to freeze before my tongue will freeze, right? So if I put liquid nitrogen in my mouth, all right, then what has to happen is my tongue has to, the water in my mouth has to freeze before my tongue's going to freeze. So I got like a second or so before my tongue will freeze, right? That's the idea. And remember, we're talking about the idea.
We don't want to try that.
Huh?
No. No. We can try that.
Still on. All right, here we go.
Oh no!
I get it really wet. I always worry about it.
Don't you want to drink some water first?
Because your teeth can crack if you're not careful.
Don't you want to drink some water first? You like the fire.
Yeah.
Is it really cold in your mouth?
Yeah, it hurts on your skin.
Yeah. In fact, in a little while we'll get some baked goat chips and we'll put them in the liquid nitrogen and then you guys can eat them and the smoke comes out of your nose. Of course. Okay. Get my hand wet.
Oh!
My hand in there too.
Look, you made ice. Wait, what's that running? What's that running?
You can put your
Liquid
hand
nitrogen.
inside, right? So as long as it doesn't stick to your hand, it's escaping. It's okay. Right? Yeah, do it really quick.
So with a little water.
Get a little water on your hand though, just a little bit.
Water?
There's a single.
There's a water tank.
Doesn't it hurt?
No.
I make my hands nice and wet.
So, but what if
Here.
Okay.
Oh, that's not wet though.
1,
It's filming?
2, 3.
You didn't go in. There you go. Whoa. Okay. This is the classic, right? So we take a banana.
Whoa, this is cool.
And we put it liquid nitrogen.
Hey, banana.
And it gets really cold. Okay? Takes a few minutes.
You buy liquid nitrogen, right?
Yeah, the liquid nitrogen stuff.
Sure.
Don't you have one in your neighborhood? When you buy liquid nitrogen, it's not that easy, no. But you can. You usually gotta be a school or an institution or something like that. They won't just like, hi, yeah, this is Donnelly. I'm having a party. Can I have some liquid nitrogen? But, because it's sold by companies that sell gases like hydrogen and helium and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So they won't just go give it to anybody, right? But at the same time, like, it's not that hard to get. It's not like, impossible or anything.
Is it like very expensive?
That big tank there costs about $5,000 for it.
Oh, that's not.
Let's buy it.
I mean, it's just air. But the problem is you got to get the air really cold. And that's the expensive part, right? It takes a lot of energy. Okay. So I'm trying to get this banana kind of cold while I'm doing this, and we'll move on in a second. But I just want to show you how cold things get. There's somewhere in there. Is there a ball in there?
It's all.
Is there a ball? I want to put a ball around here.
Yes,
It's all.
It's all? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's try this one more time. You got your job ready? Yep. Okay. Light your match. Whoa. That one won't pop back up again. I'll take that from you.
Is it like a hammer now?
Be careful. This will burn your fingers, all right? Because it's so cold, right? That's negative 190 degrees about right now. And since because it's so cold, and this is a gas, so it immediately turns into a gas. But does that immediately turn into a gas? No. So when you grab that, what does it do for a long time? So how much heat is stored, or how much lack of heat is in there? It takes a lot of heat to warm that back up because it's been sitting in here until all of that water in there became frozen, right? And so that's why it's got a really, this banana has a high specific heat, so it's going to take a lot of energy away. Where this liquid nitrogen, the specific heat is like nothing because it turns to a gas almost as soon as you touch it, right? But that doesn't turn to a gas, so it's going to keep taking heat away from your hand. What's wrong?
Jonathan's very intrigued with the people.
Right? So banana gets pretty hard. So that was
Can
what I
you
want
eat
to show
up
there.
pretty
All right, next.
Yeah.
I should have a rubber ball around here.
Is it the blue one? Is it the blue
Yeah,
one?
the blue one.
Hey, what's up?
There's a blue rubber ball in that box.